Hi, I'm William Nemec, and I'm a write-in candidate for governor, and I'm living in exile in Southeast Asia. And this is going along with the other videos that I've made, and I want to tell you a little bit today about some of the history here. This house that you see here, I built it a few years ago, and the family that lives here in this house, so this one was burnt. That house burnt down, and so the family that lived in that house is now living in the one I built. And I live in the village a few miles away. But anyway, this is a house was made, and the whole family's living there. And this people I live with, they're Ballot tribal people, and their history and their records is about 5,000 years old. And here there's motorcycle traffic and carabao traffic, which is a water buffalo, and horse traffic. And many of the roads a little ways from here, you can't go on anything but a horse or walking. Many trails in the mountains, walking on your feet only. I will show you that later on in the movies. But anyway, I wanted you to see the house, and I built this, and then now this family from here are living in there. And I'm going to maybe put a business in this one, and then build a business here, because economics here is very hard, and I'm a good businessman, and I have a business plan, so maybe I will build a business here. I'm not sure yet, but I wanted to show you some of the idea. And then I also want to show you behind here is a big flat field. So this field, and most fields here are really steep in the mountains, really hard to get into, and they farm by hand. Very steep grades, and it's not flat. Most of the farming here is done by hand, all the way through the mountains, many miles. And they take horses and they haul out corn or rice, and then they get it to a thrashing machine, sometimes many miles away, and they thrash it, and then they dry it. And when they dry the grain, they put it on a big cement pad and rotate it, and rotate it until it's dry. Then they rebag it again, and they get it all the way into village and sell it. And farming here is very difficult, very hard work, and the farmers are very smart and very dedicated, and you have to respect these guys. It's amazing, the land they farm is really this steep, literally. There's some places I can't even walk up them, and they farm with corn all by hand and work very hard. And then they have to take the ears off and pack it on horses out down through the trails to get to a thrashing machine. And then they dry it, and then they repackage it again in bags, and they haul it into a village and sell it. So, okay, so that's it for here, and I'm going to walk to another place and go again. So. Now I got to a place that's a little cooler to sit in shade. I do use no editing or anything, so what you're getting is the real deal, and no changes, no Hollywood here. And anyway, I want to go over a couple of things with you. One of them is about the election. I want to be a write-in candidate, and I've already been in the election, and the primary's finished. But I want to remind you something, that the packets that cost me $600 to produce, and the fee I paid the state was $600 for me and Lieutenant Governor, was not put to the public. They didn't do it. They went the primary, went all the way through, and never released the packets to the public, and then they give me my money back. And how I caught this was that somebody hacked my credit card, and then the money came back in a check, and then somebody that gets my mail in Alaska reads my mail, they found the check. So that's how I found out. Anyway, I want to tell you some more about this place. Rice and corn are the main crops, and they also raise tomatoes, and they raise other crops, eggplant and other crops, and bananas. But the main staple crop high in the mountains is corn. Rice is hard to raise there, but it's difficult. There's two kinds of rice. There's a flatland rice, in which the fields dry up and you can flatten like in our country. Much of the rice is on rice paddies, mud, and then it dries in another layer and another layer, and you have to use a carabao to plow. No equipment can ever get in there. I have a carabao to show you that we use, but right now it's rented out and it's not here today. But we have a carabao here that we farm with. But I do have the plow, and I will show you the plow now. So I'm going to walk over there. So you just go with me, show the plow. This is the plow we use in really steep fields in the mountains, really steep. So the only thing that can take the angle and walk along is a kind of plow like this, and it's pulled behind your carabao. And that's what they plow with. In the mountains, there's thousands of farms, all in really steep and way out to nowhere. And this is what they use for plowing. They pull it with a water buffalo, and much different than farming in Alaska, of course. But the difficulty of Alaska farming here is about the same. I mean, even though this is a harsh environment, Alaska farming is also a very harsh environment. I had many hard years farming until I got my farm to work. On my farm, I was the first one with the combine that raised grain in the Nenana River drainage ever that I could find in history. I was the first one to ever raise grain. And I was the only farm in Kobe Ag that was in full production and working. Also, I was farming other farms and connecting them with mine. My last hay crop bill was $9,500, in which the politicians got a hold of the company that bought. They had 9 mules, this company, hydraulic company, and the politicians got a hold of them, and they would not pay me. My agreement was 5 ounces of gold or $9,500. Because I was trying to get a lawyer from somewhere on the conflict of interest list that would fight for me, and I had the money from farming in Alaska. So I sold a lot of hay, and I baled a lot of hay, but I never did get paid. And I went through the process of mailing letters and seeing a trooper and writing the letter right way, so I got no answer, an answer back in the mail. But I realized if I got into court in Nenana, the same political faction as the people that are now owning Nenana and running Nenana are the same people that I'm in conflict with, so there was no chance that I was going to fight in court in Nenana. I thought to get my money. And the political group that's taken all of Nenana is very sad, but that's reality, and Nenana was my home for many years. Another thing I want to tell you, my favorite places to live in Alaska has been, I liked Nenana. I lived in Fort Yukon, and I lived in North Pole for quite a while. I had my trucking company based in North Pole, and then I moved it to out of Fairbanks to old OK Lumberyard on Farmers Loop. And then I got hit by the government getting into the insurance, and I lost my workman's comp insurance. And so that's another story I don't want to get into right now, but I want to tell you many events went through. But in my faith as a Christian, I believe in turning the other cheek and not fighting. So I'm a Mennonite background. So it was difficult for me, and I did 6 years in public office, and that was also many challenges with the law, because I believe in the Constitution, and I believe in the rule of law to work. I think it's very important. And so, anyway, that's why I'm in exile. But anyway, I want to tell you that the farming here is amazing. When they plant tomatoes, for instance, they got a natural leaf that goes wild. They roll it up, they make it into a cup. They build a special topsoil, and they get the cans of tomato seeds, and it comes in a tin can. You take the can opener and open it, and then you lay out all these little pots, and you fill all these pots, and then you put one seed in each pot, and you make a big frame, and then you have a kind of a tent that has folds over it, off of it, to control the environment for the seeds. And you water these seeds, and they put thousands of them before they plant the tomatoes, all by hand. It's an amazing job, and they grow really well. And then when they plant them in the field, that carabao I'm talking about, he is so careful with how he walks that when they cultivate the tomatoes, the rows are narrow. He never steps on any plants. He knows where all 4 feet is at all the time. He's an amazing work animal, the carabao. I was so surprised by how intelligent they are, how gentle they are and how hard they work. And, I will show you more of the care about another time, but as I'm doing these movies, I want you to learn more than some guy sitting there complaining about politics all day. I've got a list 10 miles long of the attacks against me, from arson to lying to cheating bid sales in the Department of Agriculture. I got many problems with them. But the thing of it is, that's life. The government is full of people, and there's good people and bad people. And it doesn't do no good to hate government, because you're just hating people. And I have many friends that are retired state troopers, and some of them retired out of the legal system, and they're not corrupt, and they're good. And anyway, when I wrote the Last Frontier petition, I've mentioned this before, to Dr. Wood, Bill Vogler, Bobby Miller, and I wrote the Last Frontier petition, and Bill Wally did the research. And Bill Wally, I never met him. I knew of him, but I never met him until I started working on the Last Frontier petition. And that's the first time I ever met Dr. Wood. Dr. Wood was an amazing person. Anyway, and of course you know that these guys are all deceased now. I'm the last one left. But I want to tell you that the last Constitution was built very carefully. Jack Coghill, he told me that the way the Constitution was implemented after they made it, it was very bad. He said he didn't like the way that it worked out. He tried really hard. Him and Wally Hickel were leaders for freedom and rights all the time. And first we had the Libertarian Party, and then Jack Coghill and Wally Hickel got into the Alaska Independence Party, which is a constitutionalist party. A constitution by the law, and then that's how that worked. And so they worked at it really hard, and of course Wally Hickel won the election, and they tried to kick him out like they did Sarah Palin, but Wally Hickel's wife got behind him, and she was so powerful that they backed away. But anyway, Alaska has a beautiful history, and I want to tell you a little bit about Native government in Alaska. A tribal government is absolutely a republic by its principle, and most of the tribal governments, not all, but most, they're very good. And it's a family-oriented government. And for instance, if there's a problem and you want to go to the council, you'll be respectful to the elders, and they want to see the desire of your heart, the real circumstances. It isn't about lawyers and money and the power. It's about everything. About what's good for all your neighbors and what's good for the family. So, to me, my determination of tribal government in Alaska is family-oriented republics. And they're very successful, they're very fast, and they're very accurate. And Juneau can learn a lot from them, because we hear this story about now we recognize the Native government. Well, I say that's kind of foolish, because the tribal idea of government, of how we live and how we have a republic came from the Iroquois in the first place. And so the training we're going to accept or read, they are, we need to humble ourselves and love thy neighbor, and realize that the tribal government is very important to the strength of Alaska, to the strength of the family. They change people really fast. If a chief has a problem or something isn't worked right, boom, new election, new people. And they do it quick and accurate in most places, and they're very responsible. Years ago, my friend Charlie Stevens was the chief in Unana. He was my friend a long time, and he really loved everybody. He did a good job, and so I was pretty proud when we got him elected. But anyway, I want to tell you my spelling again. My name is William Nemec, W-I-L-L-I-A-M, J-A-M-E-S, Nemec, N-E-M-E-C. Please write me in on the write-in ballot. I have only one chance in the world of winning, and that's for you, the public, to get behind me and give me some support. Now look, I don't want power, I don't want money, I'm not a corporate executive power broker. Now the Alaskan government is run by power brokers. It's not like it used to be with Wally Hickel or Dick Randolph or anybody. It's to me, it's out of control. Globalism, to me, is against the law. Now, globalism violates the right of the checks and balances system of the Constitution and our government totally. And I don't believe in that. And I know that we have these threats or miniature controls of other foreign wars and the COVID virus and all this stuff. But we need to look here, see, and think, because Alaska is the last frontier for us to come there and build a life, to be free, to work with our hands, to be honest, to make a future without the political dirty business of the Lower 48. And now it's coming to Alaska by the buckets.
There's more outside interest in politics in a governor's election than there is from Alaskans, and money and power. So I'm asking you to write me in as a write-in candidate. I will do my best job as governor. And I think I have a strong desire, I'm not afraid to say it, I want my farm back and I want to go home. And the woman that has my farm, she needs to be reimbursed by the state of Alaska. Many wrongdoings to me, and I will drop everything. I don't want any revenge, I don't want any lawsuits, I don't want to make money. I will take all the losses. I want my land back and I want to go home, and I'm 67 and I work. I'm able to start again, and I need to get more machinery. But I hung on to some of it, and I would love to do it over. And I have some children that I take care of that are now mine, and I want to give them a future and put them in a Nenana education system, Cyberlink. So I have big plans, and what I need is I reached out hand from you Alaskans that, to me, if I'm your governor, we're going to be free and have our rights back, and the things that happened in the past are going to be cleaned up. Grandfather rights to land holdings, or trappers' cabins and things. I know all these incidences that have happened, they're trying to be taken away. And the thing of it is we have a right to have our heritage and to make claims of our heritage in Alaska. And another thing that bothers me greatly, and I want to mention it, in the government system in the United States, when they first started dealing with crimes and felonies way back in the 1700s, we didn't have a felony system. Now we have a felony system. Anybody in government will want the law to be strong and the law to work. But the law also, as it has as much strength as it has to make society clean and safe, also has a strength that it should have to endorse forgiveness from society. I believe that if you're an Alaskan and you're young and you got into trouble and it's been 10 years and you haven't had anything bad and your life is good and clean, but you were young and you got out of control there. If you haven't have any crimes committed, and you're a good, honest, hardworking citizen, and you can prove it, I believe that the government of Alaska should show forgiveness to you. There's many young people from rural Alaska, too, that come into town and got into trouble, and then when they're young, and they're now good citizens and everything, and I believe as a Alaskan society, we have a big heart and a strong will. Arctic winters are hard. We need to give forgiveness to those that are falling and came back up and become very good citizens, and they should have no record anymore. And so I also believe in a hands-on program with the governor. The governor's office should not be far away from anybody. So I want to train a special team how to deal with problems as the governor's office, because a branch of executive power in the governor is very strong, and we have a checks and balances system, we have a legal system, the court system, which we call a corporation, which is a mistake. But we have these other systems in our Alaskan government, but we need a way to reach directly from the people when the other systems won't work and won't give them any support or confidence. So we need a good screening tool, good screeners for this process of the process of allowing people to have no more criminal records, to be completely removed and held up as an American citizen again. The idea of America is freedom, and freedom is earned, and forgiveness is also part of freedom. You have the right to forgive. And so anyway, I'm going to conclude this video for today, but I want to show you more and more of the lifestyle in Southeast Asia and where I live. I won't say exactly where I'm at, but I'll tell you this: I'm in the mountains, and there is friction here, and but it's beautiful people, and I thank you, and have a pleasant day, and I'll see you in another video. But please uphold me in election, or at least get a hold of the governor and let me and tell him he needs to grant me, write a check from the state to pay the woman off. And I want to go back to my farm in Kobiag, south of Nenana. There's been much wrongdoing, and I tried to uphold the law, make the law work, until I lost all my funds to do it. They also took my Teamster's pension, and I had many attacks against me. So I need to take a stand as an Alaskan citizen, even though I'm doing it from the other side of the world. And I will tell you that I believe to love thy neighbor. I love Alaska, and I love our way of life. We have the right in Alaska, in the last frontier, to be free and to earn our way with our hands and our heart, to have a good life, not war, 48, dirty politics. And most governors we had in this state fought them until the recent years. They didn't want that way of life here. Now they're in power. But I got news for them. They can get the boot. They don't have to be in power, because Alaska is a place for the second chance, the last frontier. And in a place where there's no Indian wars failure of the lower 48. Alaska Native people in Alaska, very strong and a very good way of life. A lot of people don't understand the cultures, but some of the cultures are so good for raising a family. And the only way to learn that is to make friends. So I ask you, one thing, if you're looking into the election and the other movie I told you about, talk to people in villages and ask them about the write-in, vote-in with Joe Miller and Lisa Murkowski. They will tell you the truth. And there's many things going on about your government I wish to expose, that only in a good sense. I don't take government. And I do want to go to my farm, and I want to clean up Alaska and go home. So anyway, Lord bless everybody, and thank you for your time. And I thank you for helping me in election and before. And I know there's much fraud in the voting system, but there's not fraud in the heart. Stand up and be an Alaskan for what you want. That's what's most important. Goodbye. See you again.